I wanted to share with you sort of the fact that we're living in a communication revolution at this point. When you think about human history, there's only been 4 other times in human history that a period of time could be classified as a revolution in communication. The first one was really when we looked at the typewriter and how oil-based ink and being able to type out instead of writing out our words and our stories and communication really transformed the way that we were able to do group communication from one to many in a written format or a typed format. A few hundred years later, so that was about 400 years ago, then 200 years later, advancements in telephone communication with the voice over a line or text over a line. So you had the telegraph too, is really part of this whole version of communication revolution. And then being able to speak to someone live one-to-one over this telephone wire drastically changed the way we were able to talk to each other, and really thought about ways of instantly being able to talk to someone instead of having to write them a letter or type out a letter and then mail it and wait for a response. So that's another time in our human history where we went through a communication revolution. The next phase was about 100 years ago in the 1900s when we were able to encode media, whether it was pictures or music or moving pictures like video, onto a portable object, whether it was a photograph or an LP or an 8-track or film. That was just a drastic way of how we communicated, again, the one-to-many sort of form of communication, and being able to share ideas and thoughts through those mediums. Then in the early to mid-1900s came along the television and radio, and being able to harness electromagnetic waves to transmit sound, and then sound and video, again, transforming the way that we spoke and delivered messages to each other, again, from a one-to-many format. Now, all 4 of these forms of communications were great for creating conversations from, again, one-to-many, but these weren't great for creating conversation among groups until the Internet came along. And the Internet in itself, initially, if you look at the Web 1.0 sort of philosophy of how the web was first constructed, used a lot of the same similarities, used similar techniques to broadcast one message to a ton of people. And it wasn't until social media came along in the 2000s that native communication for groups really started popping up, and whether it was in an AOL chat room or whether it was in you know, any of these instant messaging platforms where now you could do many-to-many forms of communication, it's really has transformed the way that we all talk with one another.
So this is from a study that's breaking down use of social networks by age. And if you look back into 2006, the 18 to 19-year-old demographic has not changed much. Like they were kind of already there. So 93% to 3 years later or 4 years later to be at 95.9%. That's not much of a change, because if you're already that high, you can't grow. But even if you look at the smallest number, 40 years old and over, that's gone from 11% to 47.7%. So every age demographic is going up as far as people, and specifically students, that have used social networks or social networking websites. And so it is growing. It's becoming, or has become, a part of everyday life for students and also for staff. So this is talk about students are already there, and this is already a part of their culture. And in 2004, when Facebook first came out, a lot of student affairs professionals and higher education professionals were very nervous because of the privacy issues with Facebook, and a lot of them just said don't use it. And so I think the answer of don't use Facebook is not an answer we should be doing. It should be more of changing the culture of using these things rather than saying no. You don't want to be the parent that just says no all the time, and the students just want to rebel against you. So a few years ago, studies came out that by the end of 2008, social networking has become more popular than email. And you may have already found this out on your campus. Students may be more responsive to you communicating via Facebook groups or Facebook pages versus sending out emails. I don't even use listservs anymore. They're just not effective. Very few people read the messages that were there, and so you spend a lot of time writing these long messages that were there. So I would rather use social networks or Facebook than just trying to use listservs as an effective way of communication. So just the way social network and social media is fundamentally changing the way we're communicating.